All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, if there's a central theme to how I see the world, it's basically that class and the growing divide explains everything about the direction of the United States since the 1990s. The problem with class, though, is it's really hard to pin down. What does class mean? Is it income? Is it ancestral wealth? Is it immigrant status? Is it racial? The answer is kind of all of the above. But as I've reiterated here many, many times, increasingly the best determinant of class is probably whether you have a four-year college degree or not. Now, before you explode, let me explain. I'm not saying people with a four-year college degree can't be poor, but instead that the four-year college degree is more of a proxy for how you see the world. If you went to college, you are way more likely to hold liberal views on race, to not be religious, to be sympathetic to the elite narrative in this country. And increasingly, that basically means you're a Democrat. That is why I controversially will say that if you're a plumber making $100K a year, but you didn't go to college, you're culturally working class. While if you're a Columbia film student who is broke, you're still in the upper class. This new orientation of the world was very hammered home in the 2020 election results. Contrary to the way that the media speaks, Trump increased his vote share amongst every single demographic group in America except for white men, specifically white college-educated men. White college-educated men and women were the major swing and enthusiastic voters behind Joe Biden's victory and the Democratic victories in the 2018 midterm elections. And I'll state another controversial fact. 2020 was the most racially depolarized election of our lifetime, with record numbers of Hispanic voters voting Republican and even black men crossing over. How does one explain that? If you only care about race, you really can't without resorting to disgusting tropes about how people of color want to present as white. It's easier to understand to what extent race matters. It's more about whether you were an elite member of your racial group and you went to college or not. The college degree unites the worldview of half the country, and non-college worldview the other. This was hammered home even further in the New York Times poll that we spent some time on in our last show. It shows this starkly. For the first time in a national survey, Democrats have a larger share of support amongst white college graduates than amongst non-white voters. And guess what? Those white college graduates who have all the energy of the party, well, they care far more likely about guns, abortion, and, quote, democracy. Those are their top issues in 2022. In fact, amongst the white college-educated group, only 17% of those voters said that the economy or inflation ranked at the top of their issues that they're going to vote on in 2022. For non-college educated voters, the data flips. Republican-leaning voters in 2020 care about one thing only, the economy and inflation. It's fueling the rise of non-white voters into the Republican category, with Latinos especially. In fact, Latinos in the New York Times poll were the most likely to say inflation and economy were all that mattered to them. This lines up squarely with white non-college whites who are supporting Republicans by a 60-point margin. Just to hammer my point home again, if you take race out of the equation and just look at the electorate, by college or not, 56% of college-educated voters outright support Democrats, 33% Republican, 12% undecided. For non-college, 33% Democrat, 45% Republican, 22% undecided. Now, once you understand the college divide, everything else starts to make a lot more sense. If you went to college, you hear Latinx, and while it is cringe, you have exposure to the critical theory that most colleges teach, you kind of get it. If you didn't, you think, what are these people smoking? Same with much of the pregnant people discourse that the current left is idolizing. When you went to college, the foundation of those ideas are imprinted and you're familiar. If you didn't, you can barely believe that these freaks are real people who actually speak this way. Now, like I said, I know there's a lot here that will piss some people off. Some college-educated voters who are broke will be upset. The truth is, though, the way you see the world is a better determinant today of class than pretty much anything else we have. This holds two primary warnings for both parties. For the Democrats, while the college-educated rule the world, they are not the entire world. Only about 40% of Americans have a four-year college degree. Only 14% of Americans hold a graduate degree. The graduate degree people are way more represented in higher institutions of culture and are the ones driving behind the bus behind political correctness, gender, and race ideology. Many of the other forces behind cultural leftism today. That means the people at the highest income and class spectrum are setting the agenda for a party that still presumably wants to win and must win non-college educated voters to survive. For the Republicans, the warning is also obvious. Okay, you're probably going to win, so now what? Because if you have a bunch of people voting for you on economic grounds, if inflation goes sky high and you continue trickle-down economics and talking about the deficit, those same voters could abandon you pretty easily if things go south. either govern and satisfy their concerns or get ready to lose again. The obvious point is neither of those things are going to happen. The freaks are in the driver's seat of the Democrats, and they will be for years to come. The deficit hawks, similarly in the GOP power seat, they're there. We are doomed not necessarily to a permanent realignment, but an ongoing yo-yo of American politics. So buckle up. I hope it works out. It's fascinating, the non-college.
Yeah. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.